Hello, cats. Welcome back to another episode of Chat About Tay. I'm your host, Bella, and in this episode, I'm going to be chatting about Taylor Swift's lucky number 13. So I thought it was only fitting for my 13th episode of the podcast to do an episode all about Taylor Swift's obsession with the number 13. So if you are a Swiftie, or even if you're not a Swiftie, you might know that Taylor Swift is obsessed with the number 13 and that the number 13 just comes up in her life. And there's just been so many coincidences with her in the number 13. So I wanted to talk about that for my 13th episode. Just thought it was like a perfect thing to do. So Taylor Swift was born on December 13th. So right off the bat, when she was born, 13 is obviously an important number to her. And then she actually turned 13 on Friday the 13th, which is a very rare coincidence and a rare thing that, you know, happens to people. And then her first album, which is her self-titled album, Taylor Swift, or we call it debut, it went gold at 13 weeks. So again, another really crazy coincidence. And then her first number one hit song was Our Song, and it had a 13-second intro. And a lot of her music either has 13-second intros, or, you know, a part of the song is 13 seconds, or, you know, like All Too Well's 10-minute version is actually 10 minutes and 13 seconds. So she uses like 13 seconds a lot in her music. So that's already like really prevalent as well. And then she said, and this was like kind of early on in her career when she started writing the 13 on her hand. I think she was doing that for like Fearless and Speak Now and stuff in that era. She was always talking about like why she liked the number 13, and everybody kind of realized that, you know, she had this obsession with that number. And she mentioned back then that she oftentimes was seated in the 13th seat or the 13th row or 13th section at award ceremonies, or even in row M, which is the 13th letter of the alphabet. So just, again, really weird coincidences that she has around the number 13. And then she said she's just had good luck when the number 13 appears. So for her, it's not an unlucky number. But I did want to talk about a little bit, going off of her saying that 13 is lucky for her. I wanted to discuss a little bit about why the number 13 is actually unlucky. So there's a couple of different things about why it's unlucky. So with like religion and history, Judas, so in the Christian, you know, religion, Judas betrayed Jesus, and he was often said, or it's often, you know, discussed that he could have been or was probably the 13th guest at the Last Supper. So again, unlucky, Judas betrayed Jesus kind of thing. And then in Norse mythology, the god Loki, who, you know, obviously you know Loki from like the Thor movies and stuff, but he is a, you know, Norse god in the Norse mythology. He was also the 13th guest at a banquet, and he caused a lot of chaos and mischief and things at, you know, this banquet. So again, unlucky. Maybe not for Loki, but for the people that were there. And then also 13 is one after 12. So there's like 12 months in a year, 12 zodiac signs, the 12 apostles. So 12 is kind of like a standard number in a sense, and, you know, in a dozen there's 12. So 13 just, you know, breaks that. It's just one after, so it's kind of like a disruptor of the number 12. And then obviously Friday the 13th is, you know, superstitious and, you know, all of that. And then just cultural reinforcement with, you know, people thinking that the number 13 is unlucky. People don't want to stay in the number 13th room in a hotel, or there's no 13th floor in buildings and stuff like that. So that is why the number 13 is unlucky. But to Taylor, clearly this is it's a good number for her, especially with her being born on the 13th. My birthday is April 28th. So 4 and 28 are like, you know, numbers that I like because that is, you know, related to my, you know, birthday. And then, you know, I was born in the year 1994. So again, there's another 4 there. So there's coincidences and redundancies with like the numbers as well with my own birthday and stuff. So then going back to Taylor and the number 13, her social media handles were like Taylor Swift 13. I think some of them still are Taylor Swift 13, or maybe on some platforms she's just Taylor Swift, but that was like a handle. So she, you know, was putting the number 13 in there. And then a cool example of 13 is the 13th track of Red, or Red Taylor's version, is called The Lucky One. And it's kind of just ironic because, again, 13 is an unlucky number, but she decided to name her 13th track The Lucky One because that's lucky to her. So that's kind of cool. Another thing is Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's numbers kind of are coming into play as well because Travis's jersey number is 87, and then Taylor Swift's favorite number, of course, is 13. So when you put those two numbers together, it equals 100. So it's kind of like 100 is like the best. So them together is the best. And then I also think that's another reason why she says in The Fate of Ophelia, keep it 100 on the land, the sea, the sky, because it's like the two of them are 100 together. So just thought it was cool. It's just like a kind of like cosmic thing. And then also they announced their engagement 13 days after Taylor appeared on the New Heights podcast. So again, just tying in her, numerology and her obsession with the number 13. And it's just crazy. Like, I don't know. I think some of it is obviously like planned, like with 13-second intros and like things like that. And then announcing your engagement 13 days later, like those things she's planning. It's strategic and it's just probably fun for her to tie in the number 13. But then it's just kind of weird that they have these weird cosmic coincidences with their numbers matching up to 100 or, sitting in the 13th row or her album going gold at 13 weeks. Like, obviously, like, again, some of this is planned, but some of this, like, literally is just like really weird coincidences. And I think sometimes there are coincidences. And then I think sometimes, like in this case, it's just like not really a coincidence anymore. It's just sort of like cosmic to me. I don't know. That's just what I think. And then I don't really know much about football. I've mentioned that before, but the number 13 kind of came up with some stats during some of the games that Travis was playing. 13 yards, 13 plays, or, dates with the number 13 or just that number kind of coming up with like his stats or things about like the football games as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then a couple of these stats are Super Bowl 58 would be Taylor Swift's 13th game that she attended. And she would also have to take a 13-hour flight from Japan to attend it. So that's kind of crazy. And then 58, which is 5 plus 8 is 13. And, it's just kind of crazy, the coincidence there. And then the tie-in with the Super Bowl and the 49ers, 9 plus 4 equals 13. So for this next portion, I was doing a lot of research about her interactions with the number 13. And the Taylor Swift wiki page has an entire page just dedicated to her obsession with the number 13. And so it's called Swiftopedia or like Taylor Swift Wiki or whatever. And so I wanted to read some of the things from this page, just prefacing that I am getting this information from this page specifically. But if you are interested in Swiftopedia, I highly recommend that you check it out. It has lots of cool information. And then really anything you can think of has its own like wiki page. And oftentimes they're named like funny things. Like I know the Pokemon one is called Bulbapedia because Bulbasaur was like the first Pokemon. And then the Star Wars one I think has like a funny name too. But anyway, I'm getting this information from the wiki. So there's a whole list of her interactions with the number 13. And I wanted to just like go through and read a couple of these for you. So some of the information on this wiki page that have to do with the number 13 are that she signed a 13-year contract with Big Machine Records in 2005 when she was, stalking people or calling it Taylorking people on Tumblr. Because she used to like go on Tumblr a lot and like comment on people's posts and stuff. She oftentimes would use like 13 emojis or 13 exclamation points. She was featured in the film Valentine's Day all the way back when she was dating Taylor Lautner. I think that's when she met him. And in the movie, the two of them are together, their boyfriend and girlfriend, and she gives him a t-shirt with the number 13 on the back. And also in the movie, her character says that 13 is her lucky number. And then there's a scene where she has the 13 written on her hand and everything. So that just plays a lot into that movie. 5 of her songs peaked at number 13 on the Billboard Hot 100. And those were Teardrops on My Guitar, White Horse, Hours, Gorgeous, and Mastermind. And then Mastermind from Midnights is the 13th song. And again, that peaked at number 13. So 2 13s there. Like I mentioned earlier, some of the songs have like 13-second intros. So Call It What You Want and Tim McGraw both have 13-second intros. She used to do fragrances. I never had any of them, but I know a lot of people do or did have them in the past. And the number 13 was on the top of the lid of her fragrance boxes. So just a little Easter egg that she put in there. And then many of her music videos also have references to the number 13. So in Hours, she's like working in an office and her office is on the 13th floor. And Ready For It, the number 13 is written on the wall. In the music video for Delicate, it actually had 13 million views in its 24 hours. So not something in the music video, but related to the music video. And then in You Need to Calm Down, there's a part where she shows a watch and the number 1 on, the clock of the watch is replaced with the number 13. The number 2 is also like not in there, so she like replaced those numbers with the number 13, which I just think is funny. There's also 13 gems on her sunglasses that she wears, and then she also has a necklace that says 13 on it as well. So lots in You Need to Calm Down. In Bejeweled, there were 13 buttons on the elevator. Karma, she has a necklace with 13 pearls on it. The I Can Do It With a Broken Heart music video reached 1 million views in 13 minutes, which was the fastest for like the YouTube videos, which is pretty crazy. In Out of the Woods, she falls down 13 times, and the song title also has 13 letters in it. And in I Bet You Think About Me, the top of the cake, because it's like she's at like a wedding, the top of the cake has a bunch of like 13s and 26s on it, which 13 times 2 is 26 as well. So that's kind of interesting. And then there are a lot of dates associated with the number 13 as well. So, clip of Out of the Woods appeared on October 13th, 2014 on Good Morning America. I also believe that might have been part of her announcement for like the music video as well. Lover was released on August 23rd. And 8 plus 2 plus 3 equals 13. So very strategic for her. Fearless Taylor's version was announced on February 11th, 2021, which 2 plus 11 equals 13. And then it was released on April 9th, 2021, and 4 plus 9 also equals 13. So she's just very strategic. Folklore was released on July 24, 2020, and 7 plus 2 plus 4 equals 13. Midnights was released on October 21st, 2022, and 10 plus 2 plus 1 equals 13. Target announced the bonus tracks for the Midnights album on October 13th of that year. On August 9th, 2023, she announced that the re-recording of 1989 would be out, and that date marked 8 years, 9 months, and 13 days after the album's original release, which is pretty cool. And then the Eras Tour was released in theaters on October 13th, 2023. The extended version of the concert film was released on December 13th, 2023. Life of a Showgirl was set to be released on October 3rd, 2025, so 10 plus 3 equals 13 again. And then she also announced that the album covers, a track list, and all that stuff, and release date would be August 13th, 2025. So pretty cool. The incident with Kanye West at the VMAs happened on September 13th, 2009. And then continuing on with just other instances of 13. The 1989 album cover can be seen in an episode of 13 Reasons Why, which was also produced by Selena Gomez. So I think that was probably Selena putting that in there. The 1989 album, the original album, not Taylor's version, they all came with Polaroids, and there were 13 different Polaroids that you could get in those albums. And then in 2018, she won 13 awards total. She released her albums Folklore and Evermore in the same year that she turned 31. She said she made sure that one of the albums had 16 songs and that the other album had 15 songs to equal 31 tracks total, which is 13 backwards. Also the year that she turned 31. So yes, again, a lot of these are strategic, but some of these are just like kind of weird coincidences. The song Willow from Evermore, she says, "That's my man," 13 times. Both of the songs about her grandparents, she had one on Folklore called Epiphany and one on Evermore called Marjorie, and both of those songs are the 13th track on the albums. And then in Cardigan, she sings "I Knew You" 13 times throughout the song. 3 of her albums, Fearless, 1989, and Midnights, all have 13 tracks on their standard editions. And each of those albums also won Song of the Year at the Grammys. So just another weird coincidence. Track 13 was the first song title revealed for the album Midnights, which was Mastermind. So obviously she's a mastermind because it's the 13th song on the album and she's doing all this strategically. Just kind of funny. And then on August 1st, 2023, her song August surpassed 5.13 million streams on Spotify. She announced her album, The Tortured Poets Department, after winning her 13th Grammy in 2024. And The Tortured Poets Department debuted with 313 million streams on Spotify on the first day. The 100th show of the Eras Tour was on June 13, 2024. In her song Stay Beautiful, she says the words Stay Beautiful 13 times, and the title also has 13 letters. In the song Endgame, the word reputation is sung 13 times, and in Paper Rings, she does the intro 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, which adds up to 13. One of the legs of the Eras tour had 52 stops, and that number is divisible by 13. So there are just so many different references to 13 throughout her music, her career, and just things that are, again, planned, but also just randomly connected to the number 13, which I think is really, really interesting. And, I think she's going to continue using the number 13 and, like I mentioned, like all of the the Eras Tour stuff that came out that was on December 13. So I'm thinking that maybe for this year she might have a couple of more things in mind for tying in the number 13. So we'll have to see what happens this year. But, she's always going to be tied to the number 13 and use that in her music and in release dates. And I think the number 13 is just going to be cosmically significant for her for the rest of her life. And also maybe with Travis as well, because their numbers equal 100, which is really cool. So yeah, I thought this was a cool thing to do for my 13th episode. Unfortunately, I was not able to make this 13 minutes long because I just had a lot of stuff to talk about. So that's it for this episode. I hope you enjoyed learning all about Taylor Swift and her connection to the number 13. Hope it inspired you to go listen to some of her music or do some more research about the number 13 as well with Taylor, and also just how it's unlucky to other people. And as always, stay safe, stay classy, and I'll chat again with you soon. Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this episode, you can find us on Spotify, Good Pods, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. See you there.